All right, today we are diving into the most sophisticated, most intelligent defense system on the entire planet. And guess what? It's inside your own body. We're going to look at how it works just like a sovereign nation, constantly on guard, defending itself from invasion.
So, to really get a handle on this, I want you to just picture it. Your body is a huge, bustling country. It's got cities, factories, supply lines, borders, the whole shebang. And just like any other country, it's under the constant threat of being invaded. And to protect itself, this country of yours relies on an unbelievably smart and highly organized national defense system. And that's what we call the immune system. So, here's our plan. First, we'll survey the battlefield, the sovereign body. Then we're going to look at two main threats, the enemy that gets inside and the enemy that attacks from the outside. We'll check out the specialized forces that deal with each of those, and finally, we'll see how it all comes together as one single coordinated defense. Ready? Let's go. Okay, so at its heart, our country is fighting a two-front war. And this is so important to understand because the strategy you need for each front is completely different. Why? Because the enemies attack in totally different ways. On one front, you've got what we call intracellular invaders. Think of these as masters of stealth, like viruses or even our own cells gone rogue, like tumor cells. They don't attack in the open. They sneak inside our own cellular factories and hide. Then, on the other front, you've got the extracellular invaders. These are things like bacteria and toxins, and they're much more direct. They attack openly in the spaces between our cells. So let's focus on that first front, the internal threat. This creates a really tricky problem, doesn't it? How does our country fight an enemy that it can't even see? An enemy that's hiding inside its own critical infrastructure? Well, for this kind of mission, it deploys its internal security forces. This whole branch of the military is called Cell-Mediated Immunity, or CMI for short. And the name says it all, right? It's immunity that is literally mediated by cells, specializing in hunting down threats that are already inside our own cellular structures. The primary soldiers in this force are the cytotoxic T cells, and you should absolutely think of these as the elite commandos. Their whole job is to find our own cells that have been compromised, infected or just abnormal, and take them out before the enemy has a chance to spread. But these commandos don't just go in guns blazing. Their activation is controlled by a super strict three-step protocol. This is to make sure there's absolutely no friendly fire. First up, Signal 1, target identification. The T-cell's receptor has to recognize a piece of the enemy that's being displayed on a special platform on the cell's surface, called an MHC class I molecule. Think of this as the compromised cell literally raising a red flag. Second, there's a security handshake to double-check that this is a real threat. And finally, they get Signal 3, the launch order. This is a chemical signal that comes from their generals, the helper T-cells, giving them the final go-ahead to attack. And once they're activated, these commandos are absolutely lethal. They carry out their mission by releasing two key weapons. First, proteins called perforins punch holes in the target cell's membrane. Then, enzymes called granzymes shoot through those holes and basically trigger the cell's self-destruct sequence. Target eliminated. But what if the enemy is really clever? What if it knows about that red flag system and sabotages it, hiding its identity markers to try and evade the T-cell commandos? Well, that's where the natural killer cells, or NK cells, come in. These are the rapid response special forces, and they're trained specifically to spot and eliminate any of our own cells that have tried to go dark and hide their identity. Okay, deep breath. Our internal security has the hidden threats covered. So now, let's pivot and focus on that second front, defending the country's borders and all the open territory from those extracellular invaders. So to fight these enemies out in the open, our nation uses a totally different strategy. It deploys its advanced missile defense system. This whole branch is known as Antibody-Mediated Immunity, or AMI, because, well, it relies on a very special weapon called an antibody. The heart and soul of this system are the B cells. Just think of these as highly specialized, high-tech weapons factories. When they get the order, they kick into high gear to mass-produce these incredibly precise long-range weapons. And just like our commandos, these factories don't just start churning out weapons without permission. For most threats, they need authorization from high command. And you guessed it, that's our helper T cells again, to confirm the target's identity and begin full-scale production.
Now, once a B cell gets activated, it transforms. Some of them become plasma cells. These are the dedicated missile production units, and they are incredible, pumping out thousands of weapons every single second. But others become memory B cells, and these are crucial. They hang on to the enemy's blueprints, which means if that same bad guy ever attacks again, our defense will be way faster and much, much stronger.
So what are these guided missiles they're making? They're called antibodies. These are Y-shaped proteins that are engineered for one single purpose: flood the entire country, seek out one specific external enemy, latch onto it, and neutralize the threat. And these missiles are unbelievably versatile. They can neutralize threats directly, just grab onto toxins and viruses to disarm them. They can opsonize, which is just a fancy word for painting a target on the bad guys, making it super easy for other immune cells to find them and destroy them. They can kick off a chain reaction that punches holes right in the enemy's membranes. They can even tag our own infected cells for those NK special forces we talked about to come in and clean up. Now, it's really easy to think of these as two separate armies, right? The commandos and the missile system. But the real genius of the immune system is that they aren't separate at all. They function as a single, unified armed force. So let's do a quick debrief of the whole strategy. You've got cell-mediated immunity, our special forces, going after the hidden, intracellular enemies with direct cell-to-cell combat. Then you have antibody-mediated immunity, our missile defense system, targeting external enemies out in the open using antibodies. Two different targets, two different weapon systems, all part of one beautifully coordinated defense. And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. These aren't rival military branches. They are perfectly coordinated arms of a single defense system, working together, talking to each other, to ensure the complete and total protection of the sovereign body. Which, leaves us with one last kind of fascinating thought. With a defense system this smart, this sophisticated, and this coordinated, how is it that sometimes the invaders still manage to win?